actual note of the day. Well, good morning. My name is Cynthia Reyes. I'm from Mensa, Mexico. I was the past president of Mensa, Mexico. And well, this presentation was done in coordination with different chairs. I have always been interested on this that I will present to you, but there doesn't seem to be an official record or tracking of what does every chapter do, so that's why I started working on this. You will also see there are plenty of words in all the slides. And that is not because I don't know how to make a presentation, it is because this one is meant to be, just as it is, uploaded to the Mensa International website, so that anybody can actually understand what there is without me. Okay? Next one, please. So, some of us, I think, we often get this question, what is Mensa, and what does it mean, what does it do? Well, the meaning of Mensa comes from Latin words, I think all of you know. It was founded in England by a couple of psychologists who met on a train, and the words come from Latin sources. It has three meanings, I'm sorry. Mind, table, and month, mensis, and mensa, which also can mean a monthly gathering or meeting of minds. Next one, please. So, Mensa has three objectives or three purposes. I think the one we know the most and we can share the most in this kind of gatherings is the last one, to promote stimulated intellectual and social opportunities for its members, because most of these gatherings are all about social. And this is a very nice thing Mensa does. Actually, a while ago, I was talking to one past chair of Denmark, and he was talking to me about one of the projects they have, which is a youngsters camp. When they started this project, they didn't know how well it would turn out, but it has actually been very, very good, because they get kids, gifted children, of course, gifted youth, which usually don't have a very nice or happy life in their college or school, because you know how it is. It is not easy to go along with the rest of the people when you don't seem to match. So many of these kids, when they arrive to the camp, they are these shy people who think there is something wrong with them, but when they can go along with other young mensans, then they see they are perfect. They are the beautiful person they are meant to be. And he described this process as a flower that is just flourishing. And when the kids went back home, they were these little happy people who could actually do a lot of things much better than before, and they could become happy adults and then do a lot of good for the society in general. So this is part of what Mensa does with their members. It's like one of the main benefits any Mensa member can have, besides all the learning you can achieve through volunteering and leadership, etc. Just the fact that you show up and you meet people, it feels good. Some that is done to encourage research in the natural characteristics and uses of intelligence is, well, we can have some examples of this in some chapters, and we have this Nerf magazine. I know you may have seen it. I will talk a little bit more about it. And the third objective, which sometimes it is not as obvious, to identify and foster human intelligence for the benefit of humanity. Every time I read this, I notice people have different meanings to this sentence. Some think Mensa is doing this by having testing done, and that's it. For me, it is the last part, for the benefit of humanity, not only for the benefit of the mensans. And every time I think of this sentence, I think, next slide please. I think that this can be actually very good for Mensa, because as we were told yesterday in this Working for Volunteers lecture at the LDW, it helps you to grow your volunteers, and it does excellent PR, And on top of that, next slide please. It reminds me of this guy all the time. Well, actually of his uncle. With great power comes great responsibility, and I think that's true. It is not that we have ultimate power, but we have certain ability, and whatever ability a human can have, I think it would be the best outcome to use it for the benefit of all of us. If we all thought a little bit like that, I think we wouldn't have as many issues, global issues. Well, that's my personal thought. Next one, please. So, this is a little bit of history. Much of my presentation is a little bit of history because when you are asked what does Mensa do, some of us can only answer, well, it's a social club. But actually there are some other things Mensa has done, and this is why I am always sustaining that this could be great PR. So in case you don't know some of these items, well, I will explain them very briefly. The Mensa Education and Research Foundation was started in American Mensa. It publishes 3 times a year a journal. It's a very interesting journal. If you haven't had the chance to take a look at it, I think you should ask Elisa, who has just entered the room, where can you get your copy of this and subscribe. It's an excellent magazine. It has great content. And if you look for the MERF's website, you can also find they have set up a program of scholarships, which is great. It is not based on your curriculum. It is not based whether you are or not a Mensan. You have to write an essay, and according to the essay, you may receive or not this scholarship. This is great. This is awesome. This is absolutely non-discriminative. It doesn't care about your background. It cares only about you and helping you. And also, if you go into the website, you will see they have a set of podcasts that are very, very interesting on these intelligence things. Next one, please. American Mensa also have every year at least one colloquium. I don't know if some of you were present in these years, but you can see right outside that there are already signs for the next year, which will be science and science fiction. They always cover very interesting topics at, I think it's a fair scientific level for people who are not very much into it, which is great. It's open for anyone, not just Mensa. You can pay your register and be there. I think this is a huge thing. American Mensa is moving along, and it's a great example for all the chapters we have in the world. And there is the website also if you want to visit and see what has been going on. There have been astronomy colloquiums, video games colloquiums. I hated to miss that one because the creator of Ultima video game was here, Richard Garrett, but anyway, next one please. They also have lots of benefits for youngsters. They have a very well-funded Gifted Children program, and they also have resources for youngsters. They have this Fred magazine. They can participate, giving reviews to certain books, which is great. I mean, the fact that the kids have these opportunities of actually highlighting something out there that they are taking into consideration, I think it is not good only for the books itself, but also to remind you that you can actually do things outside of your small circle of action. And this is something mensans should be aware of. Some of us have been most of our lives very shy, and we don't like to stand out. But actually, mensans do have a lot to share because of this high IQ. High IQ doesn't always correlate with creativity, but I think we always have something that could be shared on behalf of disability. Next one, please. They also have local groups. They have a parents group and a parents mailing list. So, well, you may have noticed that for your parents or some parents of gifted children, parenthood is quite difficult because they don't also want to do with a kid that that doesn't fit into the average population. So they also have resources for them. Next one, please. American Mensa has a long history of small community service programs. They have gathered books for libraries, they have given scholarships, they have raised money within some regional gatherings for some specific purposes, silent auctions, live auctions, book sales. They have SIC that actually has made food for poor people. Sometimes we don't see this type of community service in many Mensa chapters. It is not something that we should think Mensa chapters are forced to do. And probably there are other ways or more effective ways that this ability, this high IQ, could be used. In Mexico, there was a guy who always said, well, I am good with my brain, so I can work with my hands. We have done some things there. I can work with my hands, but if you let me manage a group of people, I am sure I can better work with my mind. So I think sometimes that's true. Next one, please. Mensa Croatia has a very interesting item in this list. They have every now and then these blood donation days. They make all the PR to let everybody know that they will be at some point of a city with a lot of games and things to share with people, lecture, etc. And the payback that the people around has to give to Mensa Croatia is blood donation. So in their registries, they have that some of their blood donation days have been the most successful donation days in the whole year for Croatia. So that's quite something. That is always something that we tend to need eventually. They also have the NTC program, which was developed by Ranko Ranjovic. Oh, thanks. He has conducted some studies that have to do with the development of children nowadays, because whether we like it or not, they are actually different from the previous generations. They are so much in touch with video games, for example, and we have records that you can actually see that the fact that they actually play more than other type of abilities doesn't help them in the future to have a very good writing ability, handwriting ability. Their thumbs are used to do some other type of activities instead of just holding the pen, which is funny, but actually the development of your brain and your psychomotor abilities really has to do with your brain development. So what Branko stands for is that he has a program that actually helps kindergarten children, not gifted children, regular children, to enhance their mind abilities, to learn to read much earlier, to do simple math. And I think there is not a black spot on this. I mean, Mensa is good for gifted children, but if we can do something for kids in general, I think that's awesome. So I very much applaud this program. Next one. This program has been worked in different countries. Serbia has it, Slovenia, the Czech Republic, Italy, Bosnia, Switzerland, Croatia, of course, Hungary, Romania, Norway. Mexico hopes to have its own. And in some of these countries, the Ministry of Education is actually supporting the program. So that's really awesome. We also have some other groups that have material that can be handed for schools that don't know how to manage their gifted children, by the way. I think it is Sweden, but I may be corrected that they have some sort of certification for certain schools. But when I see Bjorn's face, I think that's not the right country. Anyway, that is not on my slide. Okay, Mensa Singapore they have worked with the YMCA, which is not only a song, it is actually something out there in the real world. And they have different programs that help people with some sort of handicaps. They also take people in tours to the zoo, or they just have different type of projects to help around the community. They also have the Autistic Association. They seem to care very much on the other side of the curve with certain disabilities, whatever type of disabilities. And one of the things that I found more interesting is that they were raising funds for one autistic association, but they didn't just do it once, because sometimes we give money to someone and it's like feeding the poor. But what they actually did is that they managed to get the association be self-sustainable. So they actually told them how to fish their fish. So I think it was great. Next one, please. British Mensa has plenty of examples also. They have been working with different universities for some studies. I think we are the laboratory mammals. Some of these papers can actually be downloaded for free, and they do have interesting outcomes. There is one last one that has something to do with Asperger's, and the outcome is not yet there, but if we can work along with the universities, I think this is great. In Mexico, we have tried to do some sort of social service program. I am an engineer. I didn't mention that before. I'm an engineer, and I have done a little bit of consultancy. So what I was actually asking is to have some industrial engineering students and take them to factories, so we can actually see times and movements and have a report on how they could improve their production numbers. This is a long path because it's all bureaucracy, but maybe in some other countries this is much easier, or it can be done at least informally. What we wanted is also that the students had some sort of support from the university, which is when it comes hard, because there are no resources. But it can be done. Next one, please. They also have the Gifted and Talented Teachers Assistants in a box. It's basically a program that they can share to schools to know how to deal with gifted children. I would like pretty much to see this material at the Mensa International website, but I know it is available if you write or contact Sylvia Herbert or Chris Leak or any other officer of British Mensa. Next one, please. Here comes the research on Alzheimer. I think this isn't concluded yet, but what I am looking for is a more effective treatment based on cognitive training. So I think this is interesting. Next one, please. Well, this is supporting education department. I would like to say more about it, but I think it pretty talks on its own. So basically, Mensa can help the education departments in each of the countries because we have a different approach on intelligence and cognitive processes. Next one, please.
Can I ask you a question? This is rather new, isn't this? This is a new development in British Mensa.
Relative. The Czech Republic. Yes, that's the one I was looking for. It's not quite close to Sweden. Okay, the Czech Republic have this gifted children program that includes activities to support the education department of the country. They have already the Mensa NTC project for schools. They have Logical Olympics. They have gifted children clubs. They do have plenty of activities for children in their own schools. because I have seen in different places that they try to make separated associations to support gifted children. But if you can actually get the government that already has this Department of Education to learn about it and to support the schools with its resources, I think it's a more effective way of getting it done. Next one, please. Australian Mensa, actually, I think Therese Bloom, I think I have seen her around. I can tell you more about this. They do have support for children in hospitals, and she also helps, like personally, with some material she has handed out for getting resources. Well, I have some examples in Mexico. We did podcasts. We have done what we had some time is going is a brainstorming project. We actually talked with entrepreneurs who didn't know what they wanted to invest. So we sat down with them. We had a different profile, a group with different profile people, and we thought about their interests. And at the end of the day, we had a strategic plan of what they were going to do, how they were going to do it, how they would measure it. And that was only because we had different profiles, so we could think about different issues. We had a medical doctor. I am a chemical engineer, and we have an electronic. We had an IT person. So the gathering of all of us, and each one of us looking at certain aspect of each of the topics, was actually very good for them. We have had conference, lectures, speakers, activities with certain universities, and I think many other chapters do this. Next one, please. We have been in helping associations who actually help poor people who live in the streets, help them gathering money with activities, lectures. We have not done yet the Gifted Children program. There are some issues there when it comes to bureaucracy again and the education department. Well, Mexico has serious issues when it comes to the education department, but we will solve that eventually. Next one, please. Well, we also have environmental activities. We have one person in Puebla who is actually an environmental engineer, so she's always pushing these long-term projects. I want to show one of them when it is actually concluded, but I have been asked to help as a legal association with gathering funds from international associations to buy equipment for rural zones so they can potabilize the water and have current electricity with solar power, solar and wind power. If we could actually get to do this, which means a lot of money and work, well, that would be a quite awesome thing to do with Mensa chapter. Because it is not because we are Mensa, it is just because we are a civic association, a non-profit association in Mexico. And I am pretty sure that many ONGs could do that, but sometimes we don't have the information on how to get something like that going. Next one, please. And, well, this is sort of my thing. Since I have always been asking what do Mensa chapters do, what do Mensa members do, well, a few weeks ago, my webmaster and me created this small website. It's called animusm.com. It has not a Mensa name on it because then I would have to ask permission and these kind of things. But basically, I am the chair of one of the international committees, International Advisory in Media Creation Committee. I think it's one of the longest names we have for an international committee. So the basic thing we have in this website is some streaming windows that can be freely used by members, and we would have liked to do it here, but the internet connection within the rooms was not good. So, well, anyway, we can upload videos of Mensa activities and Mensa lectures that can be shared with the world. We have had this idea of Mensa Talks, like TED Talks, for a while now. and we are very eager to get that kind of things working. And besides that, I am very interested on having this sort of track of what Mensa members and Mensa chapters have done, wish to do, or whatever you can have in your mind. Can I have the next one, please? So actually, we have a small space within this website where you can actually review if the list of what anyone has already written, or you can just fill out a form. Actually, the form is very simple. Next one, please. Since there was no internet here, I just took some of the screenshots. So it asks for your Mensa chapter, your ID, your name, your email, although this won't show up in the review list. A brief description of what is it that you are thinking to do, that you would like to be done, or what is being done, or what has already been done. And it has certain questions on how to focus yourself into the project, what approach you have to it, which is your target, how are you planning, which resources do you need, anything that can give you the roots or the basics for creating a strategic development plan for your project. And of course, I think there are many projects or ideas that appear in different countries, but there is one single member here and one single member here who would like to do kind of the same thing, but they don't know each other. So if we could actually see what people is wishing to do and we could kind of connect them, I think that would be great. Of course, we always have to remember that Mensa doesn't stand on any political, religious, etc., point of view. But we're talking about mensans doing stuff, and mensans can have their own points of view and can try to help other people, which is basically the objective of this. Next one, please. The other thing that we set up, I think we have many people with very highly specialized profiles. I am pretty sure of that. We also have a lot of people who have a very broad profile that know a lot of physics, math, and sociology, psychology. Yesterday we were listening to an accountant who was pretty much involved on getting psychological profiles for team working. So I think that's a pretty good example. When I joined Mensa, I was very eager to see how we could manage to get this knowledge spread among the members, because it would be a great benefit if you could go and have a lecture with this astrophysics genius that lives in the Czech Republic, that may actually be able to mentor you on a PhD thesis, for example, just to say something. Or you could approach to a great musician and show him your lousy composition so he can actually give you better tips. And well, this is a small approach to that. This is a Moodle platform that is free of use. I didn't get many screenshots of it. I think some of you may already know Moodle, but basically you just sign in. I give you the credential to create a course. A course, not a course. Yes, a course. And you create lessons, maybe both. You create lessons, activities, you can insert videos, you can review the people who has been there, and I think this can work pretty good because anyone who wants to share a knowledge can actually upload it there, and it can be reviewed by the people who is using it. Hey, you know what? I think your definition is okay, but I found a more accurate one, which is this and this and this. And Wikipedia says you are wrong, or whatever. So within time, I think the courses could be much more better with the feedback. If Mensa members are good at something, is criticizing. So I think if a course, any course, I'm sorry, course manages to survive to Mensa criticism, it will be an excellent course. I'm sorry, course. Well, you know what I mean. Uh, in the future, I would like to see some of these lessons. I am avoiding the word. Some of these lessons available for not only Mensa members but worldwide people. Of course, for this to happen, we would need the permission of the creator of the lessons, etc. Because of course the copyright thing must be held within the creator, and we don't want to steal anybody's ideas. So this is the basics. If anyone wants to give it a try, I would be more than happy to help you developing anything that you can come up with. And please do if you have any other suggestions, questions. Well, you can tell me now, or during the day, or in the next slide you can see my personal data. That's my current official email, prachi@mensa.org.mx, and that's my Facebook. I have like 1,500 people, but that's because I have plenty of students on my Facebook account. So it's, I think you have a good probability that I will accept your request. So this is pretty much what I wanted to show you, that actually Mensa can do plenty of things, and I didn't want to make this very long. Any comments? Questions? Yes, Elisa.
Fourth, my hand is always the first one up. I noticed that you did update this. I remember helping going over this slideshow with you, and I see that you've updated it somewhat. Are you going to try to send out a message to the various national groups sort of on a regular basis so that you can continue to update this with their projects?
My ideal solution is that these kind of things have a space in the Mensa International website, so everyone can actually see what it is, see the content, and when there is something to report, anyone can actually do it, not only the chairman.
Okay.
I don't know if that is possible, so in the meantime I will use this animusm.com, and I will try to get a link for that one at Mensa International website.
Because everybody should see this.
Yes, I think it has good information, and as I mentioned in the beginning, this type of information is also great for PR. Yesterday I heard about this owl that was adopted by a Mensa group here in American Mensa, and this owl has this small plaque that says that he was adopted by the original chapter. So it's PR. I mean, you are doing something great.
And they also put brochure of Mensa next to the little plaque. Yeah.
They have brochures, so it's a win-win situation. Many of these things, for them to work out, they have to be out there. For example, this consultancy service that I was hoping to do in Mexico, if nobody knew about it, it would be just useless. So I think it's feedback. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, I wasn't here at the very beginning. I didn't. Maybe you said how big is Mensa Mexico and how old is it? And then I have another question.
I didn't mention it. So you're actually a very good listener. Mensa Mexico right now probably has 130 members. 130 members. We are provisional national Mensa. There have been members around for probably 10 years now, but it was until 5 years ago that one specific group in Jalisco, where I live, started to actually have monthly meetings, and we started some of these projects that I already mentioned. It was probably August, December period, and then we were, I became the chair in January the next year, and it's been 4.5 years since then, and we got everything like the constitution, bylaws, ACS, treasury, website, and so on. So
In other words, she started Mensa Mexico.
I didn't want to say that. Well, thank
My
you.
second question would be about this brainstorming for entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
I was interested whether you have a permanent group of people who are participating in that team for brainstorming, or you call for volunteers anytime that a company or an entrepreneur contacts you? How do you do this?
The ideal situation for any chapter to do that would be having a list of contacts of people that have free time, because that's what we do is that we had a cup of coffee, a pretty long cup of coffee with these people. So it means that you need to have one night off every now and then. And we were working along with one of the private universities, which is Tec de Monterrey. So they already have this incubator program. What we did is that we talked to them, and they scheduled the time for the new entrepreneurs to talk with us. And then we could come back to our group of people, hey, who wants to gather with? And the bigger the group, I think it's the richer ideas flowing. Of course, you may need, if the group is too big, you may need a moderator and teach your members to behave. And I think that's pretty much it. I think any chapter could do something like that with nice results. Yes.
Cynthia, about the website, Animus.
Animus. It's a Latin word.
So it's already open?
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes. It's up there.
And you can also put data on it already?
It's a blog, so actually, if anyone wants to insert data, I can give you an account.
You have to do data.
Yeah, but it's rather simple.
You can also
WordPress,
account.
yes, WordPress works pretty much like Word, so I don't think you have any problem with that. You can get pictures, videos, all kind of things there. Links to other chapters, links to specific news. Yes?
You mentioned the Mensa charter school in the Czech Republic. Can you tell us anything more about that?
Sorry? Could you repeat it?
In the Czech Republic,
Oh, yeah.
you mentioned a Mensa charter school.
Yes. I actually have a very specific file that actually explains how it is done and the person you can actually contact. I will be very happy to hand it to you or anyone who is interested. I want all this material that is complete and not just a glimpse of it to be up there, because sometimes we don't know it exists. So we think we have to create everything out of
Should be on Mensa.
yes. But if we can see it, then you know who has already started, how did they start, what were their mistakes, what have they learned, and what is actually working. It may not be just the same on every country, but it's a great way you can start. Yes?
So you mentioned TED Talks, right? So I'm sure that there are people in the Mensa community that are involved with the setting up of the TED Talks and things like that. Why do you think that Mensa isn't like the global sponsor of TED Talks? Like, why didn't Mensa start that or other like globally recognized high-profile intelligence building things?
Well, I am the type person.
I can tell you why.
I am the person who always bothers IBD and tell them we should do something like this. But I think Elisa can answer you better.
Not to be negative or anything like that, but it is a negative thing. Mensa should have been ahead of all these curves. We should have been ahead of all these curves, but we have a couple of things holding us back, and that's us. Too many rules, too much bureaucracy, too sort of scared to get into those waters because we are an organization that does not have any political opinion or religious opinion or anything like that. So people are so, I think members or officers are too afraid to jump into those waters.
Well, who in American Mensa could we talk to about that? I mean, like too many rules. I mean, that just talks to people in the management that are bound by those rules, right?
We have to follow the legal rules of each country, and they're different everywhere. We have to follow copyright law. I mean, there's a lot of things that are the reasons why we were so hesitant, I think. Now, I'm speaking in general here. Believe me, if I had control of things, we would have been way beyond this, and Cynthia would be my right-hand person. But we just have, we're also limited by funds. Sometimes these things cost money to get into. The volunteers may have the expertise, but maybe they don't have the total expertise. But the way Cynthia is talking about the different projects, if we could get volunteers on this side of the world and volunteers on this side of the world to work on something together and contribute their time, that would help us get further
Because
along.
Moodle is an open source program, there's tens of thousands of people developing for that, so that's a really good choice to choose that. But, you know, technology, it's like I could put up a global blog right now, right? It's just getting the people to see it and all that. So all of those technical issues are all solved. It's all human systems issues.
Believe me, I know that.
Yeah.
But then you have people who say they just want to get their bulletin by mail. You have people who are holding things back while others want to jump ahead. And the jumping ahead is going to get us into a lot of interesting places. But then you have the attorneys who say you better worry about this and worry about this and worry about this. So, and your officers and people who are in charge are trying to walk that narrow plane between being legal and allowing the creativity to flow.
Perhaps an offshoot that we create of Mensa, just really like a son, so to speak.
I am always looking for the bypass. So that's actually the website I'm presenting, animusm.com, is actually that.
Yeah, it definitely is, because our international website is too static. It's there, there's some contact things that if you want to contact the chairman of the Czech Republic, you can. But and there's community forums, some people don't go to them, because it's not an inviting, it's not a real inviting place to be. Whereas something like what Cynthia's doing here with Animus Goose, I guess it would be, that's much more inviting, because that's telling everybody, come on, let's work on these things, let's enjoy each other's thought processes. And but behind that website was our creative people who created it to begin with. We didn't have it until about 2 years ago, and we should have had an international website that worked for all of us 10 years ago. So we're just edging into the 21st century.
Okay, I'd like to say something now. I think most of the problems are cultural within Mensa. I think it's the homogeneity and the lack of diversity. And I think Mensans have high IQ, but not necessarily high EQ, working together, getting the best out of, getting the most out of each other and leveraging each other's talents. And that discourages other people from joining Mensa. And you probably heard this before. Smart people join Mensa, really smart people take a look around and leave. So there's that out there, I think there's some cultural things that have to be addressed.
Yes, sure.
The technology, the bureaucracy, that won't really move things.
Jim?
I'd like to know, just quickly, how many folks heard the presentation yesterday by Vicki Hurd from Mensa Canada? Okay, a few of us here. Quite interesting, because part of what she was talking about was building teams and how teams can function together. And you get a lot of people with great ideas, but they don't fill all the necessary roles in order to carry forward and be successful as a team. You don't really get very far. And one of the things that has happened is Mensans are all very smart, but they don't necessarily sort themselves out and work together in a way that functions well as a team. So one of the things I think my takeaway from Vicki's talk is we have lots of great ideas, but we really need to be building our teams to be successful, and think about that. And once we put ourselves and make sure that all those roles are filled and we carry forward our projects, then we can start seeing results in these areas as much as possible. Given that there's still the barriers that Alyssa's talking about, we can work to overcome whatever external barriers there are, but internally, we can begin to work together and function in ways that will make Mensa successful. And I think putting a little more focus on how we build those teams is going to help us get through some of the roadblocks that have prevented ideas like Nick's and like yours, Cynthia, that are waiting to bring us into that 21st century, waiting to make us leaders instead of kind of hanging back.
Bjorn?
Yes, first, I think you've done a great job, and I want to acknowledge that. Second, I also acknowledge this problem that is being discussed, and I'm searching for ways of finding a solution here. So I'm searching for a pattern. If you have seen, if there is a pattern between which countries manage to do something and what characterizes those countries as compared to the countries that are not part of your list, countries that we never hear about doing anything for gifted children or anything like that. What quality is it within certain groups that make them actually succeed in doing things? And what do those groups lack that don't go ahead and do things? Because if we can identify that, it will be perhaps easier to copy it.
Elisa?
The LEAP program is identifying those spark plugs in various countries because they bubble to the top. When we do the selection process worldwide and people apply for this program, I wish we had the money to send them all around the world, but the people who are selected are generally the people who are really active and really want to get things done. And when they go back home and spread that enthusiasm, and this is the hope of the program, spread that enthusiasm, then you have identified more or less the people who are going to make a difference in that country. And one more thing I wanted to say about mensans we're too much alike. We're all smart. And like John said, if we're all the same, we will never go anywhere. It's like the ship never leaves the harbor. That's why we need the diversity. We're not going to take away our IQ or anything like that or disregard it. But what we have to do is learn who's a facilitator, who's a leader, who's the idea person, who's the person who's going to actually put it into the implementer, the person who's going to put it into a process. And we have trouble sorting ourselves out. I proofread textbooks for one of my part-time jobs, and the book I just read has a new word. It was a new word to me. I'd never heard it before. Chaotic. I thought that it was a misprint and it should have been chaotic, but no, it's chaotic. And this is a sort of a business idea now that you have chaos and you have order, and that's how we get the word chaos and order. Chaos means everybody's all creative and running around with all these brilliant ideas. Order is the office where it's a cubicle, everything is a straight line. Everything is structured down for you, time to go to the bathroom. So you have chaos, you have order. We don't want to be ordered. We don't want that structure. But we don't want this either. We don't want this chaos where everybody's running around with different ideas. We want to be in the middle. And that's what this textbook is pointing out. You must have the diversity. You must have that chaos, diversity, difference, everybody unique, but you have to have a little order or we're never going to leave the harbor. So think about that, chaotic, CHAORDIC.
Björn?
Just to direct on that, this sounds very much like the concept of spontaneous order, which means exactly the same. The question is, what sort of rules or order is it that will make new order sort of emerge spontaneously? And finding that's the problem, and that's the interesting part.
Yes, Robert?
Excellent work, really. To segue from what Alyssa and John were saying, there is a nexus of skill sets that has been identified in the entrepreneurial business community that's needed to accomplish the kinds of things that you've mentioned. For example, TED Talks and amplification of the multiple programs that you've already listed. There are people within Mensa who have those separate skill sets and who participate in these separate areas of work. I know some of them. However, to the best of my knowledge, there aren't any organized groups within Mensa that attempt to combine these very disparate and separate skill sets into what would be required to create an effective organization to do the things that you've listed. One of the necessary components is, in fact, what you've done. But there are additional required components and skill sets that are outside of what you've shown, as you know, that are required to create a successful organization. identifying those people, bringing them together under an appropriate business model for a particular goal would almost certainly accomplish what you suggest.
Do you have an idea of what business model?
This is a long discussion. Depends on what the goal is.
Okay.
Okay.
Of course.
Brief example. I've invested probably far too much into the University of Washington School of Business. It's way up north in Seattle. It's a major regional research university. I can assure you that there are some very intelligent, very capable people who are present within the entrepreneurial business community within that city and within that university. I talk to them frequently. I can also assure you that they have not thought of the things that you've displayed here today, and they have not done them. So they have useful skills, but not yours.
Okay. I don't know which of you raised the hand before.
But, so, you know, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, right? And so it's a dime a dozen to have these like startup meetups, right? To start up incubator, to get back to yours, right? To get back to your question, I travel the world and we're in such, like in California, we're so lucky to be where we are because there's so many people talking about creating what are called lean startups, right? And I think that that's one of the factors that causes people to do stuff is that you have an open environment and you have whatever the tools are, whether it's just people around you or some online tools, to just start doing something very easily and quickly. And it may not be world-changing, right, but you can make incremental progress. And so I think, you know, in the volunteer groups that I've seen, it's being able to take small steps and get some feedback on that, whether it's creating a database of your local users or like map out where where your members are or something like that. I think that's how I would answer your question, that you could implement in Mensa by just doing very small things and then incrementally building and then using, you know, websites like what you've set up to share what has and hasn't worked based on actual results, on tools and things like that.
Yes, please.
And to match Alyssa's answer to Bjorn's question, it's not which are the successful countries, it's who are the successful people that happen to be in the country. And what are the characteristics of those people, and how can we find them, and perhaps how can we motivate them to be interested in projects like this, and then even going beyond that. Is there something we can do with all of these children so that eventually they become these kind of people?
No borders. I'd like to think there's no borders. When you look at it from outer space, there are no borders.
Bjorn.
I think those are very good and valuable points. However, there are differences between countries when it comes to what do the members themselves think of their Mensa. For example, if you may have heard, Mensa is a social club, period, versus Mensa is an organization to foster human intelligence for the benefit of mankind. Because if that is the attitude, then these individuals will be listened to if they want to do something. But if they sort of work in an environment where you're not really supposed to go around and do anything like that, then those individuals there will be no resonance. And then they will keep going to the pub meetings, but we won't see anything else.
So could you attend this AG without getting the idea that the second type of description of this organization might be growing?
I think that is exactly what is happening, but then we need to get all aboard, so to speak.
Well, I haven't interrupted. I have been. I am moderating the debate. What I think is exactly that different chapters that have different age, so to say, have evolved within certain purposes in mind, much more than others. I have been talking about this in different worldwide meetings so far. Here at the AG, at IMAC on Paris last year. I am probably doing it in Stockholm. And I talk to people, and some of them have never thought had never thought that this was actually something that mensans could be doing within the organization. And I think I have always considered the fact that there should be an extra official at IBD considering this fact and working it around, because we have three purposes and everyone thinks out there that there is only one. I have read in different forums, well, since I started Mensa in Mexico, working with forums and websites, well, I didn't know what Mensa was, so I wasn't going to guess. So I asked permission to American Mensa to join their website, to Spain, to different countries, Germany, etc. I went into many LinkedIn and non-official forums, and I found that actually there are many people, well, maybe not so many, but there are some people who actually complain of the fact that Mensa is just a social club. And then that's what I thought. I mean, we have three purposes, but there is not enough focused on each of those. I think that's what is going on. Probably the easiest one to grow a chapter is a social one, because people want to get fun and they want to forget about their real life issues. And when you actually try to work something, to create a chapter, to have a project going on, you will obviously have problems to deal with. And I think many people are just trying to run away of that instead of committing themselves to do something extra. I am the other way around. I think Mensa would be completely worthless to me if it were just the social thing. I mean, I have enjoyed it. I am having a terrific time with Jacqueline from the Netherlands and Zavida from Malaysia, who I met thanks to the LEAD program. But if it was only about friendship, I would have never become a sharer. I wouldn't be here traveling and spending my money trying to talk to people about this kind of things. So I think this is something important that has to be brought up. But in my mind, it has to start from the IBD level, because it's part of the purposes of Mensa. It is not something that it just happened to occur to one of the members down here. It's on the purposes, it's on the Constitution. So it should be rescued from that level, so that people are aware of this purpose again. And then we can have all this team working going on and have people who has disinterested and in between, that we can have this kind of tools within this international website and not a bypass website. I also think that, of course, there are cultural divisions or different points of view, but the technology we have nowadays compared to the technology they had when they started Mensa International is completely different, and we have now in our hands technology that can allow us to speak freely and free with people throughout the world. And even though there are only a few people interested on doing these kind of things here and there, we can actually gather them all together and get a little by little projects, some things on here and there, and actually help Mensa. Because I think each time you do something like this, you learn yourself. You help others to learn about themselves, about what they care about. Of course, you're helping your target, and you're helping Mensa. So I don't see any drawback. We must always be aware of laws and that kind of things, but I think the officers are very much aware of that. And if we can teach our members to be worried about that alongside, well, I think we could walk in a safer zone most of the time. Yes?
You said you think a few. I think you'll be surprised how many people share that attitude, but just haven't had a forum or an opportunity to say that.
Although
I think there's more.
I would like to see that. I would be very happy. Yes?
Cynthia, pardon me, there's a wonderful course about the state of humanity, and it goes year-long, once a week, often through the churches. It's called, well, September to June, called Just Faith. And it's a real eye-opener about where the needs are, and a lot about who's helping, so I just thought I'd throw that out.
Oh, if you could give us more information about
Sure.
it later, that would be awesome.
Glad to.
Any more comments, questions? So,
Actually, that's something when you're talking about a social club. Mensa Malaysia, I think, was predominantly a social club. People to eat up because Asia, well, especially Malaysia, is a very food-oriented country. I mean, well, hello. So it's every time there's a gathering, there is always food. I think Bjorn was in the AMG last year. Even though he had a heavy breakfast, at 10 o'clock there was food. Then at lunch there was more food, and then 3 o'clock there was again food, and then early dinner more food, and then after dinner again food. Right? So the activities of Mensa revolved around food. There will be a road trip, and then to a special restaurant maybe 1.5 hours away, right? Or there will be a trip to, let's say, to see the fireflies, ending with a seafood dinner, right? So bowling coupled with a Chinese lunch, right? So it was, that's to that people was because in Asia, people tend to work a lot, so they want to get away from work and then meet up. I think it's only now slowly that they're starting to say, well, why can't we have our food activities linked with charity event, like fundraisers, for charity. Still food, but it's a social thing. But I'm hoping that I was wondering whether I can get a copy of those slides, promote it in Mensa Malaysia, so that then we can look at other ways in which people can enjoy themselves with food, but also with a charity event going in as well.
actually, well, I mentioned previously that every time that you try to work on a project, there are issues. But I can also say that each of those projects I started in Mexico were a lot of fun. I mean, they were a hell of fun, really. So you can enjoy yourself also. Anyone else? Any comments? Suggestions? Yes?
My impression is that in the space that's technically and officially outside of Mensa, at this moment in time, the leadership is yours. Therefore, if you want to, this might be a useful venue for you to request specific input with respect to creating some of the structures that you described. Whether Mensa on the American side or internationally chooses to assume that leadership might be a different discussion with some more details. But on the outside, that permission and that organization is not required. It's standing right there behind the microphone. What do you want?
Okay.
This is a question. What do you want?
I would like to see it official, and I have actually sometimes now asked the IBD about this. But if the IBD doesn't respond, then I create a bypass website.
Or go on the IBB user.
Well, I don't know about that yet, but maybe. Okay, if there aren't any additional comments, yes?
I'm sorry I came in late, so I didn't hear your presentation, but from what I'm hearing now, I've been a member of Mensa since 1980, but I've never been active in the organization. I've been active in other organizations. But I can see kind of a link between one organization I've been in since '79 and at least what I'm understanding you're talking about. And that organization is Friendship Force, and the theme of the organization is "The world of friends is a world of peace." And it's people-to-people exchanges. We've now got clubs in about 60 countries, and what we do is we sponsor exchanges where a club will come over, they'll stay in people's homes, really get to know them. I mean, I've got people that I hosted in '79 from Germany that we go back and forth. It's like expanding your family and getting to know people. I can almost see a link if folks in Mensa wanted to get involved in that, either